He barely stopped the car when he felt their eyes. Cold, judgmental. Two officers were walking toward him, and something in their gaze felt wrong. Then, everything changed in an instant. He didn't just escape. He altered the game. What happened next left them frozen, unable to move. But let's start from the beginning. On a crisp Saturday afternoon in Los Angeles, Detective John Anderson and his partner, Sarah Mitchell, cruised down Sunset Boulevard. The streets were alive with the hum of weekend traffic, and the afternoon sun bounced off the sleek glass facades of the city's high-rises. It was just another day in L.A., until something caught Anderson's eye. A black Lamborghini sped past, cutting through the traffic with a confidence that turned heads. Anderson's gaze sharpened as he took in the driver, a young black man, likely in his mid-20s, dressed in a sharp suit. The car was unmistakable, the kind that screamed success. But Anderson saw more than just wealth. He saw a challenge, a break from the norm, something that didn't fit his expectations. Anderson's instincts kicked in. He glanced at Sarah, a silent agreement passing between them. "We're pulling him over," he said, his voice firm but calm. The Lamborghini eased to the curb with a smooth, almost rehearsed motion. The driver, Marcus Daniels, rolled down his window, offering a smile that seemed more practiced than genuine. "Afternoon, officer," he greeted, his tone polite, but there was a quiet confidence in his voice. He wasn't rattled. Anderson approached the window slowly, his hand instinctively brushing the handle of his holster. "You know why I stopped you?" he asked, his eyes scanning the driver's face for any sign of nervousness. "No, officer. Was I speeding?" Marcus replied, the confusion in his voice slightly masking the tension that Anderson could feel in the air. He was calm, too calm. "We've had complaints about cars like yours weaving through traffic. Mind if I take a look at your license and registration?" Marcus didn't hesitate, handing them over with a smooth, practiced motion. But Anderson wasn't satisfied. The Lamborghini's price tag alone set off a red flag. "You're driving a car worth more than most people make in a year. Do you mind telling me how a guy like you can afford it?" The question hung in the air, sharp and pointed. Something didn't sit right with Anderson. He didn't know it yet, but he was about to step into something far deeper than just a routine traffic stop. The question lingered in the air, heavy with suspicion. Marcus's eyes narrowed for just a split second, a flash of something defensive behind his calm exterior. But his voice remained steady, betraying no hint of panic. "I work hard for my money, officer," he replied, the words flowing effortlessly, though there was a faint edge to them now, a tightening of his jaw. Anderson wasn't convinced. He raised an eyebrow, his gaze sharpening. "You really expect me to believe that a young guy like you can afford a car like this?" There was a moment of silence, the kind that stretched uncomfortably. Sarah, standing off to the side, sensed the tension escalating between them. She took a small step forward, her tone measured, an attempt to de-escalate the situation. "John, maybe we should just—" But Anderson cut her off, his voice icy. "Step back, Sarah." His eyes didn't leave Marcus, the challenge in them unmistakable. "This guy's got something to hide. Let's see if his story checks out." Marcus could feel his pulse quickening. This wasn't just another traffic stop. He knew it. He could feel the judgment radiating off Anderson like a physical weight. It wasn't about the car. It wasn't about the speed. It was about the assumption that someone like him didn't belong here, didn't deserve this kind of success. He'd seen it before, had felt it countless times in his life. People underestimated him. They saw the color of his skin, his age, and they made assumptions about what he could and couldn't achieve. But Marcus wasn't going to let that slide. Not today. He stood a little taller, his voice firm, tinged with the faintest trace of anger. "I'm not hiding anything, officer. I've worked my ass off for everything I have. Maybe you should stop assuming things." He could see Anderson's jaw tighten in response, but he wasn't backing down. Not this time. Not ever again. The tension in the air was palpable, thick with unspoken words and mounting frustration. Anderson's hands shot up, motioning for Sarah to call in backup. As she turned to radio for support, Marcus felt the weight of the moment shift inside him. He wasn't just a young man in an expensive car anymore. He was being unfairly judged, and it was getting under his skin. The frustration he had held in check began to boil over, and with it came a sharp clarity. He wasn't going to let Anderson or anyone else ruin his day, or his dignity. "I've had enough," Marcus muttered to himself, his fingers instinctively reaching for the button on the console. He could feel the adrenaline rush surge through him as he pressed it. In an instant, the Lamborghini's engine roared to life, its deep, guttural growl filling the air. Without hesitation, the car lurched forward, its tires screeching as it tore through the street, narrowly missing the police car behind him. The noise of the engine reverberated down Sunset Boulevard, a sharp contrast to the now still silence between him and Anderson. Marcus swerved violently, cutting through traffic like a shadow darting through the streets, leaving the police car in his dust. Anderson's eyes widened in disbelief as the Lamborghini sliced through the congested lanes, its driver a blur of determination and defiance. The police car's siren wailed, loud and urgent, but Marcus didn't flinch. He wasn't about to slow down. Every move he made was calculated, his mind working faster than the car's engine could roar. The streets became a maze of obstacles, but Marcus navigated them with ease, his hands steady on the wheel. He could hear the siren growing louder, feel the pressure of being pursued, but none of that mattered. He wasn't just running from the police. He was running from everything that had tried to box him in, from every expectation, every stereotype. The chase had only just begun, and Marcus wasn't about to let anyone stop him now. Less than a minute later, Marcus slammed on the brakes in front of an alley, pulling over and getting out of the car. He stood there, facing the officers as they screeched to a halt behind him. Anderson was livid, his face red with anger, but Marcus wasn't backing down. He looked at them, his voice suddenly calm but carrying weight. "Are you really going to do this? Do you even know who I am?" Both officers stared, unsure of what to do next. "I'm Marcus Daniels, CEO of Daniels Enterprises. My company is one of the biggest real estate firms in this city. I've donated more to the local community than you've probably made in your entire career. You want to arrest me because you think I'm some thug in a fancy car?" He took a step closer, his voice shaking with controlled fury. "You owe me an apology, right now." The officers were silent. They exchanged a glance, realizing the gravity of the situation. "I'm sorry," Anderson finally muttered, his voice low but sincere. "I shouldn't have." "Yeah, you shouldn't have," Marcus replied, his voice softening. "Next time, think before you judge." With a final glance at them, Marcus climbed back into his car, started the engine, and drove away, leaving the two officers standing there, utterly humiliated. As the Lamborghini disappeared into the distance, Sarah turned to Anderson. "Man, you really messed up there," she said quietly. Anderson didn't respond. He just stared at the pavement, knowing he'd made a mistake he'd never forget.